Alrighty, good morning, Arkansas. This is Assistant Chief Forecast. Came back here once again to give you guys an update on what's going on across the natural state at this point. I'm going to go ahead and get straight into it because I know the majority is going to join in and going to be asking about the timing. This is the timing for right now and into this afternoon. There's going to be two different rounds that I'm going to go over. So just waiting for some people to join in and stuff like that. We've had a pretty active morning across the board with some significant flooding up there in northwestern Arkansas this morning. Please remember to turn around and do not drown in those areas. That was the number one thing that I was concerned about last night is we were going to have all those storms come in from Oklahoma. And it was going to produce the heavy rainfall here. So if you're kind of tuning in, this is what we have. By the way, northographical error up there in the top left corner of the screen. I realized that when I went live, but you get the gist. We got the marginal risk across much of northern and western Arkansas, the slight risk area across southern and south central Arkansas and eastern Arkansas, and then we have the enhanced risk, which has been greatly reduced given the morning rainfall. And I talked about this yesterday that this was going to be a 50-50 with that rainfall. It was going to make or break your severe threat, and this is exactly what's happened. We had all that rainfall last night and this morning, and it has greatly reduced your risk. But right now, southern Arkansas, you are still in play for the potential of seeing severe weather down there because you haven't seen much. And the warm front is kind of hanging around that central Arkansas area, okay? So southwestern Arkansas, we're talking from right now. We've got some storms going right now, southwestern Arkansas. That's going to go until noon today. And then in eastern Arkansas and southeastern Arkansas, that's from Little Rock East, from El Dorado to Camden, over towards Crossett, Lake Village, and Monticello. That's going to be from 12 p.m. today to 5 o'clock this afternoon here. Now, as I said before, we got two areas that we're going to have to watch this afternoon and this evening here because with the upper level low that's going to swing through, there's going to be another round of storms that's going to pop up this afternoon, this evening, starting in western Arkansas, and then it's going to move eastward. Mainly a hail and wind threat with those storms, but anytime you're dealing with an upper level low and cold air aloft, you will have to watch for an isolated tornado or two with that, but the majority of the severe weather with today's event should be limited to southern Arkansas because of all the rainfall we've had this morning across the board here, okay? So this is the afternoon threat for today. We got 4 to 8 p.m. across western Arkansas. And by the way, you're not limited to just a live stream. We're going to have this information on the page as well. So 4 to 8 p.m. over there in western Arkansas, 6 to 11 from Mount Home down to the Hope, and then over in eastern Arkansas, we're talking right around midnight to 3 o'clock in the morning here. This should not be significant severe weather. It's going to be a very broken line of storms that's going to be pushing through. Mainly a hail and wind threat with those storms. Nothing compared to what you saw last night. But you will see some thunderstorms, especially across western and central and then into northeastern Arkansas as we get towards the overnight hours. Not a severe weather outbreak, not a tornado outbreak or anything like that as we get towards the overnight hours. And then southern Arkansas, you may see something down there, but with the line going through this afternoon, it's going to wipe out your atmosphere down there in southern Arkansas. So I'm not expecting a whole lot down there for the second round. You'll be dealing with it with the first one. The second round will be coming in as we get towards the afternoon. So if you're kind of tuning in, let me go back over and talk to you guys about round one again. So southern Arkansas, southwest, that's going to be from now to noon today, okay? And then in eastern Arkansas, southeastern Arkansas, it's going to be from noon to 5. Yes, we will still have our teams out. Yes, we're still chasing for today. Everything is still good and good go. It's just further south than we were originally planning for, okay? So that's going to be the game plan for today, folks. So before, don't let your guard down even if you're in a marginal risk area because you will have some storms to contend with as we get towards this afternoon into this evening, okay? So, Valerie, that's what I'm going over right now. So if y'all need timing information, this is what I'm going over. From now to noon in southwestern Arkansas, and then from noon to 5 in southeastern Arkansas, from Lone Oak down to Camden to El Dorado, points east from there. Northern Arkansas, mainly some severe weather could be possible, not a whole lot. Heavy rainfall will be the biggest thing up there in northern Arkansas, and flooding will be a big issue across northern Arkansas this morning. So if you got to get out and travel, folks, please keep that in mind. Remember to turn around and do not drown in those areas. That's why I was stressing so much about the flooding potential up there in northern Arkansas the last couple of days because it was actually a pretty a pretty legit threat, especially whenever you're dealing with a warm front kind of moving northward here. Okay, so now here's the tornado risk for today here. Now I want to stress something with this tornado threat. This is going to be mainly for round 1. Round 2 is going to be a hail and wind threat for today. Okay, round 1 is where your tornado threat is going to be there, especially across southern Arkansas. So this goes from Jonesboro to West Memphis, down into southern Arkansas at this point, from Stuttgart to Dumas to Camden, El Dorado, Crossett, Magnolia, over towards Texarkana. All right. Yes, it's a low risk for severe weather, not severe weather, excuse me, a low risk for tornadoes. However, continue to monitor us, okay? Nothing has changed in terms of how we're going to do coverage today, all right? It's just, instead of covering the entire state, we're going to be covering southern Arkansas for today. That's where the severe threat's going to be greatest. So do not let your guard down there in southern Arkansas. The warm front is kind of stationed right there in the metro right now. So the metro south is where your biggest severe threat's going to be for today here. But as I said before, we're going to have to deal with another round of storms that's going to be coming through. So let's talk about the damaging wind threat. All right, you can see greater across southern Arkansas, but look at West Arkansas. You're still in the risk. You've had all that rainfall from last night to this morning, and you're still in the risk for seeing severe weather. There's a marginal risk up there for a reason. So keep that in mind for this afternoon and this evening. You will probably see some storms go up across western Arkansas at this point. Okay, so keep that in mind. Not a severe weather outbreak by any stretch of the matter, but do not let your guard down in those areas here up there in northwestern western Arkansas. Mainly a hail and wind producer up there. We're going to talk about that here in Futurecast. I'm getting loaded up at this point, so give me 1 second. I'm going to get that loaded up for you guys. And I said before, y'all can take a look at that. I'm going to answer some questions while I'm here as well. So mainly everybody's asking about the morning rainfall, and I talked about this yesterday in the last couple of streams, that morning rainfall could either be your best friend or your worst enemy. I've seen situations go up where you've had morning rainfall and it's been the biggest reason why you had severe weather, while the other times is where you've had morning rainfall and it's been the biggest reason why you didn't have severe weather. So just kind of keep that in mind. I think this time around the rainfall is really going to help us out in terms of getting rid of the severe threat for today. But for southern Arkansas, it's not going to be completely done for you guys until the first round's over, which is going to be this afternoon and into this evening here. Okay, so that's damaging wind outlook for today, and then there's your large hail for today as well. So better shot across southern Arkansas at this point. As you can see, much of the natural state kind of in a very low threat at this time here, but still do not let your guard down at this point. Okay, so I'm going to go back to timing. I'm going to let this sit up, and we're waiting for Futurecast to get loaded up, and I'm going to show you guys Futurecast here in just a bit. But as I said before, folks, a lowered risk, I would say, but I would still watch down there in southern Arkansas at this point. You would still have to contend with some severe weather up there in western Arkansas, but nowhere near as what we were looking at. Remember yesterday we had the enhanced risk for almost the entire state. We shrunk that down into southern Arkansas, so that's pretty good for right now. But we're still going to have to watch that. And so for down there up there in northern Arkansas, even though you're not going to have a severe threat, you're going to have the potential of seeing heavy rainfall. Okay, you're still going to have the potential of seeing flooding up there. And also, there's a lot of people laughing. I don't know what's funny about this. I'm not sure if I'm missing a joke or whatever, but if you find this funny, please leave this live stream. Okay, so before I'm going to try to go over some questions at this time here. Okay, somebody's birthday's in there, so happy birthday to whoever's comment that was. It got buried for some reason. Okay, so everybody's asking what happened to the severe threat for today. So basically what happened was you had a lot of rainfall overnight. That's the reason why you have a significant flooding risk up there in northern northwestern Arkansas. Okay, so that's what happened. You had a lot of rainfall last night, kind of moved through the area, and it's wiped out the atmosphere, which is great. We didn't want this to be a big-time outbreak to begin with. So southern Arkansas, you haven't seen much down there. You haven't seen any sort of major rainfall down there for this morning or last night. So you still have the potential of seeing severe weather down there because you're south of the warm front. But anything along and north of the warm front, you're not going to see a lot of severe weather, but some still could be possible. But I'm really worried about that flooding risk, especially across northern Arkansas. So keep that in mind. Yes, we got rid of the severe threat, but there's always a price to pay when you get rid of severe weather across the board. You still have to contend with the flash flooding potential as well here. Okay, so that's probably the reason. I saw those comments, by the way. That's probably the reason. I don't know what the whole issue with that is, but That's probably the reason what's going on here. And also, by the way, after this event, I think we're going to be done for a little while. It's just going to get hot. The southeast ridge is going to kind of take over. It's going to get quiet, but it's definitely going to get hot. Temperatures are going to soar into the 90s across the board here, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind here. Yes, it's going to get quiet, but that southeast ridge is really going to be taking over as we get towards the next week or so. So get ready for some hot weather coming our way as we get towards next week here, okay? So I do appreciate y'all being here and stuff like that. Let me go ahead and go over. I think our Futurecast is ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and go over to our Futurecast real quick. So bear me for just a bit. And we're going to get that up for you guys here. So as I mentioned before, this is what we got going on across the board. A lot of heavy rainfall across northern Arkansas here. And I'm getting a lot of reports of flooding up there in northwestern Arkansas this morning, guys. So I think we've kind of substituted the major severe threat for the major flooding threat up there in northern Arkansas. So please keep that in mind for today, guys. We'll keep you guys updated on that. But turn around and do not drown in those areas, folks. I cannot stress that enough. Take flash flooding seriously. I've had some pretty sad reports coming out from northwestern Arkansas. I don't know if you guys heard it this morning. There was some evacuations going on in Interstate 49 this morning up there in Fayetteville. You had a lot of flooding. Water was coming up to car windows and stuff. Pretty sad stuff up there in northwestern Arkansas. So you got to take the flooding seriously, folks. Remember, turn around and do not drown if you have to go out here, okay? So this is right around 11 o'clock. As you can see, northern Arkansas, you still got all that rain to contend with up there in northern Arkansas. But you can see some storms going up across southwestern Arkansas by the time we get towards lunch. That will start pushing eastward here. And as I said before, across southern and southeastern Arkansas, as you can see, by 1 o'clock, you're not dealing with much. That's why the severe threat's still greater down there, because you're still in that unstable area. You haven't seen much in the way of rainfall down there in southern Arkansas. So we're still expecting for some severe thunderstorms down there in southern Arkansas. All modes are still in place. A couple of tornadoes, damaging winds, and the potential hail will be on the table as we get towards this afternoon and into this evening here, okay? So as you can see, by 3 p.m., look at there. So a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity down there in southern Arkansas. So that's from the metro south. That's Pine Bluff, Arkadelphia, along Interstate 40, down to Texarkana, over towards Star City, Camden, El Dorado, Magnolia, southern Arkansas, those areas from the I-30, I-40 corridor south to Nice, okay? So basically, this line right here, I can draw this out for you guys. So basically, in this area right here, that's where your severe threat's going to be at its max today. And then you're going to have to watch western Arkansas, because you may have some recovery over here and have some storms kind of getting going across the board here, okay? So you can see a lot of heavy rainfall. And also, one more thing I'm going to stress with you guys, too, is that you're going to have the potential of flash flooding with this. The flash flooding threat's going to be with us all day long across the board. As a matter of fact, I haven't checked it this morning, but I really wouldn't be shocked if we had a moderate risk for heavy rainfall across the board for much of Arkansas, just because of all that moisture coming in. And then you're going to have to watch Camden, El Dorado, over towards West Helena, southern Arkansas, right in this area. You're going to have to watch for that damaging wind and that tornado potential today. So we're going to have kind of everything going on. And see, Cam, there you go. The sun is out in Stuttgart while it's cloudy here in the metro. That tells me you're south of the warm front. That tells me you're still unstable and you still have the potential of seeing severe weather down there in southern and southeastern Arkansas. So just kind of keep that in mind at this point. We're going to have to watch those areas for the potential of seeing damaging winds, hail, and a couple of tornadoes will still be on the table as we get towards this afternoon here, okay? Now, as you can see what happens, all that shower and thunderstorm activity moves away, and then by the time we get towards this afternoon and this evening, we have an additional round that may be getting out as we get towards that 8, 9 o'clock time frame here. Mainly a hail and wind threat, and I said before, I'm questioning on what happens with this round of storms. Because 9 times out of 10, when you have a big line of storms that come in like this, it wipes your atmosphere out. And that means those storms back there are going to have a hard time struggling to get going. So the second round is going to be very, very questionable of what happens after the first round, because the first round typically wipes your atmosphere out. And if that happens, you're not going to see much with the second round. So especially with it being 9 o'clock at night, because you lose all kind of daytime heating, etc. So just kind of keep that in mind. As I said before, a lot of people were kind of giving me reports that the sun's coming out, stuff like that, down there in southern Arkansas. You're south of the warm front. Let's go ahead and show you guys where the warm front is at this point. Okay, so it should be coming up here shortly. Here, give me 1 second here. Okay, so there's your warm front placement where that red line is. All right, that's from Mena over towards Pine Bluff down into Mississippi. Okay, so that's from the metro south. That's Arkadelphia, Pine Bluff, Star City, Warren, Camden, El Dorado, Magnolia, Crossett, Texarkana, DeQueen, Ashdown, all those areas down there in southern Arkansas, you're still under that warm front. Okay, that means that you're still having the potential of seeing severe weather as we get towards later this afternoon into this evening here. Okay, so I'm gonna take you guys down. As you can see, that's the rest of the night, and then that is it. So I'm gonna bat this up. If you're kind of tuning in now, this is 11 o'clock this morning. A lot of heavy rainfall here, so main thing to focus on. If you're north of that warm front, north of the red line, the severe threat's gonna be very low for you today. Okay, that's typically what happens when you're north of the warm front, is because you don't have the instability kind of getting going up there north of the warm front. If you're south of the warm front, that's Mena, Arkadelphia, DeQueen, Ashdown, Texarkana, Camden, El Dorado, Crossett, Warren, Monticello, over towards Lake Village, etc. Those southern Arkansas areas, you're on the south of the warm front, which means you have a lot of instability down there, and you will still see the potential of seeing severe weather. So you can see what happens by the time we get towards 2 o'clock this afternoon. An eruption of showers and thunderstorms down there in southern Arkansas because of the fact that your system's beginning to come out. All right? So anything along and south of that warm front is going to have to be watched. And I tell you guys all the time with those warm front setups, don't trust them. Because if you're along that warm front, you still have the potential of seeing severe weather, including the potential of a tornado or two. All right? You never trust a warm front boundary. Never trust a warm front boundary. All right? And as I said before, north of that boundary, I'm really concerned about the potential of flash flooding across the board. So keep in mind, remember, turn around and do not drown in those areas here across the areas. So this is what we got. It's around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Then 3, as you can see, a lot of shower thunderstorm activity down there in southern Arkansas. If you're along and south of that boundary, that red line that you see on the map right now, that is where your severe threat is going to be at its highest today. If you're along and north of that boundary is where your severe threat is going to be lower, but you will still have to contend with the flash flooding potential as we get towards this afternoon and into this evening here. Okay, about 4 o'clock this afternoon, a lot of shower thunderstorm activity kind of getting going across the board. As you can see down there in southern Arkansas, kind of taking the main show. However, flash flooding would still be a major issue across the board, and I'm really concerned, especially our folks here in the metro, right around 4 or 5 o'clock. That's rush hour. You know, everyone's trying to get off work, trying to get out of school, etc. Keep that in mind, that we may have some flooding issues here in central Arkansas, because this cluster is going to kind of hang around for a couple of hours before it's out of here. So flash flood warnings go out. Take those seriously, folks. Treat it like it's a severe thunderstorm warning or tornado warning. Remember, turn around and do not drown in those areas. All right, flash flooding is a real big issue for us here today. All right, and then you can see by 6 o'clock, the majority of the severe weather is down there in southern Arkansas, but a lot of heavy rainfall is being thrown up and over that warm front. That means you've got flooding potential from Little Rock to Conway to Jonesboro, etc. here. So watch this close. Flash flooding will be the #1 threat for today, along with damaging winds, hail, and a couple of tornadoes, especially for our folks down there in southern Arkansas for today here, guys. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of reports that the sun's out down there in southern Arkansas. So before, if you're south of that warm front, that's where your best instability and your best environment's going to be for the potential of seeing severe weather here. Okay, so Independence County and stuff like that. We said before, flooding is going to be not really a guaranteed shot. However, if you're north and along that warm front, you're going to have that potential. You're going to have the potential of seeing flash flooding across the board, all right? So keep that in mind. We've had a lot of rainfall over the last couple of events. The ground is super saturated. It will not take much to see flash flooding across the board here. And you still had a severe threat you're going to have to contend with down there in southern Arkansas here. So I'm going to let this loop through. And while this is looping through, I'm going to go ahead and kind of filter through some reports I'm getting at this point. Okay, so there's now a new mesoscale. This came out from Tulsa. This came out about 5 minutes ago. This is going to include northeastern Oklahoma. It's going to go for the potential of flash flooding across the board. Scattered thunderstorms north of central Oklahoma are developed along the east stall boundary. That's another reason why you don't have severe threat, by the way, is the warm front basically stalled out in southern Arkansas. So that kept you from seeing severe weather across the board, but you still have to contend with potential of seeing flash flooding across the area here. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at WPC's outlook on my other computer for just a second. And we're going to see how bad that flooding risk is for today here. I'm pretty sure it's a slight risk for much of Arkansas. Flooding will definitely be a problem for us here for today here, folks. So they did not go moderate because of the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty on the heaviest areas of rainfall, but they are calling about 1 to 3 inches of rain. And given the saturated grounds, you will have potential of seeing flash flooding across the board today here, guys. So for I really hope that answered everybody's question. I know everybody's was kind of worried about the severe threat for today, but I want to kind of reassure everyone down there in southern Arkansas is where the bigger severe threat's going to be for today. Western Arkansas, we're going to have to watch it, wait and see what happens. But I think the majority of this should be down there in southern Arkansas. And I want to stress this too. Southern Arkansas, you're not forgotten, okay? We've had a lot of comments today saying, you know, certain areas are not being mentioned and stuff. Everybody's acknowledged here in Arkansas, okay? Nobody's forgotten. We are always on top of everything. I mean, even if it's a small town, etc., we are always on top. We're not limited to just the big cities, okay? And I know southern Arkansas down there, I'm from South Arkansas, and coverage down there kind of sucks because you don't have anybody covering you. We got you guys covered in southern Arkansas, okay? So for that's all the information I have for you guys at the moment. I want to stress heavily the severe threat's got to be greater down there in southern Arkansas for today. Much of the natural state is in relatively good shape in terms of severe weather. Flooding is a different story. You will have to contend with the flooding threat across the board. Central Arkansas, I would say just watch it. But with all that rainfall we've gotten this morning and with the warm front just kind of hanging around the area, it's going to be very questionable if we get severe weather here in the central Arkansas area. I say central and south of that warm front placement at this point. That's where your severe threat's going to be at its max. Northern Arkansas, northeastern Arkansas, I'm not saying no to severe weather, but you will have to have a lot of instability to come up there in northern Arkansas to see severe weather up there at this point, okay? So flooding will definitely be an issue. We will have to watch the overnight hours to see if anything gets going. But after that, folks, after today, quiet period, it's just going to get ridiculously hot across the board here, okay? So I do appreciate y'all for being here. I'm going to go ahead and double check, make sure I'm not missing anything at this point. See if I'm not missing any comments or anything. Okay, is damaging wind still an issue in central Arkansas? That is a yes. Anything along and north of that warm front, you still have to contend with the damaging wind and hail threat. It just kills your tornado threat up there in northern Arkansas. And also flooding as well. I know I've been stressing about flooding a lot, but folks, all those reports I've gotten out there in northwestern Arkansas is pretty saddening up there, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind here. Let me see here. All right, so where do you cut off southern Arkansas, and how far up does southern Arkansas go? That's a good question. I'd say at this point, in terms of severe weather, because I'm pretty sure that's what that question is about, I'd say from Mena to Little Rock to Memphis south. This is where the severe threat's going to be at its greatest today. I would say the flooding threat up here is greater in northern and northeastern Arkansas. So this is where you're going to have a flooding threat up here. And in southern Arkansas, where you see all those thunderstorms kind of getting going down there in southern Arkansas, that's where your severe threat's going to be there. And as said before, we will be live. I'm pretty sure down there in southern Arkansas, we may have a couple of tornado warnings down there. The environment is not completely scrubbed. It's just scrubbed from much of the natural state. But you still have an unstable environment down here in southern Arkansas. So if any warnings get issued, we will be here, okay? Just because it's not central or northern Arkansas doesn't mean that we're going to stop coverage. Southern Arkansas, if you have warnings down there, we will be live. It will still be as protocol down there in southern Arkansas. So you're still in the enhanced risk. You still have the potential of seeing severe weather down there. It's just the severe threat has been gradually shifted from all of the natural state to southern Arkansas at this point here, okay? So flooding north of that line, severe weather south of that line at this point here. Okay, so as said before, folks, I really hope that kind of eased everybody's minds about what's going on. Not expecting an outbreak of severe weather, but we're still going to go with the same protocol and stuff like that. This is where we're going to have a severe threat down there in southern Arkansas at this point. And yes, I do agree, Elizabeth. We've had a lot of people over there in Oklahoma that's taken a hit from severe weather. The Seminole area over there in Oklahoma. Multiple reports of tornado damage over there. We got really blessed here in Arkansas again because of the fact that all those storms over there in Oklahoma kind of merged into a line and pushed into the natural state. Yes, we still have to deal with flooding, and yes, we still have to deal with a severe threat, but nowhere near as what they saw out in Oklahoma yesterday. They had a 15% tornado risk over there in Oklahoma yesterday, a full-on moderate risk over there in Oklahoma. So we got really blessed here in Arkansas about not seeing much, but you can see what's going on here. Now, this is the newest one, newest update from the fronts here. You can see the warm front's kind of surging northward all of a sudden up here in the northeastern Arkansas, right? So this is kind of including, so before that slight risk goes up here into that Memphis area, but you can see the majority of the severe threat, that's from Little Rock southward into, I would say now, eastern Arkansas, because the warm front is just kind of deciding to move northward, but I don't think it's going to get too far north because it's running into some blocking to the north here. So just kind of keep that in mind. We'll be here. So for flooding, northern Arkansas, central south is where your biggest threat of severe weather is going to be. We're going to have updates all day long, and we'll continue to give you guys updated right here, your source for all things Arkansas weather.